Support for Black Lives Matter is collapsing. Seriously. Opposition is skyrocketing, and I can only assume it's due mostly to the riots. I think people are sick and tired of it. And you know what? I bet it has a lot to do with sports. How many people do you know that were probably just like, I don't care, leave me out of it, don't care about your riots, I can't wait for football. And then they turned on football and they got Black Lives Matter, and they probably went, no, I said no, I don't want this. Now they're angry. Yeah, you know what, man, I'll tell you this. People riot for many reasons. The most consistent reason to riot is when your sports team wins or loses. So don't mess with people's sports. And that's what they did. And now people are souring. But I think the riots played the main role. Let's check out the story from the Daily Mail. Support for Black Lives Matter has dropped among Americans since unrest flared after George Floyd's death, new poll finds. Fewer white and Hispanic Americans are supporting Black Lives Matter, while African American backing for the movement remains virtually unchanged, according to a new poll. Well, it's worse than just that. Net support for Black Lives Matter has been cut in half from where it was just before the George Floyd incident. I kid you not. Black Lives Matter. Let me say it again. Net support cut in half. Man, is it bad. They say, I'll read this to you, but then I'll show you the actual civics chart. A majority of Americans, 55%, express at least some support for the movement, which is down from 67% in June, according to Pew. The number of American adults who say they strongly support the movement has also dropped from 38% in June to 29%, nearly a 10-point drop in strong support. The previous survey was taken in the days and weeks following the May 25th police-involved death of George Floyd. Pew's latest findings were taken in the aftermath of the police shooting of a 29-year-old black man, Jacob Blake, in Kenosha. Among African Americans, support for Black Lives Matter remains strong. In June, 87% of black people said they backed the movement. The latest survey puts the figure at 86%. Notably, the poll found a drop of African American adults who say they strongly support BLM. In June, 71% said they strongly support it, though now 62% say the same. They still overwhelmingly support it, but man, has it gone down. Pew found that it is among whites and Hispanics that backing for Black Lives Matter has wavered. Among white adults, 60% said they supported Black Lives Matter back in June. That number has now dropped to less than half, 45%. In June, 77% of Hispanic adults said they supported Black Lives Matter. The latest findings show the number has slipped to 66. So across the board, about a 10% drop off for every demographic. Among Asian Americans, they say backing for Black Lives Matter has dropped slightly from 75% to 69%. Now, I got a question for my Asian American friends. Why? Why the smallest drop off? Why do you support it overwhelmingly? That to me is weird. Look, 69%. What do they say among black people? 62%. More Asians support Black Lives Matter than strongly support Black Lives Matter than black people do. Oh, okay. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It's just a standard. Okay, so it's different. That's strong support. Okay, I'm wrong. Support for Black Lives Matter support for BLM also brings down sharply along partisan lines. Just 19% of Republicans said they somewhat supported the movement. Meanwhile, 88% of Democrats said the same. Broken down into race, 88% of white Democrats expressed at least some support for Black Lives Matter, while just 16% of white Republicans say the same. A little more than half, 51% of white Democrats said they strongly support BLM, while just 2% of white Republicans said the same. Hold on. 2% of Republicans strongly support Black Lives Matter? I guess. Are they never Trumpers who refuse to give up the name? I don't know, whatever. I bring you now to civics. Black Lives Matter among registered voters. Something happened, I don't know what, from the 7th to the 14th, where net support for Black Lives Matter fell in the gutter. Take a look at this. What we're seeing is a map, a graph that goes all the way back to 2017. Let's see, I think we saw the shift in 2018 on February 9th to the 10th. There was a shift in general negative net support, general opposition to Black Lives Matter, to a slightly favorable position favoring Black Lives Matter. Before this, net support was negative, meaning more people opposed it than supported it. But something changed in early 2018, and it slowly started to go up, with net support around 4%. So what this means is just like slightly more than half, right? Here's where it gets interesting. There were big gains for Black Lives Matter. Breonna Taylor was killed, and Black Lives Matter went down a little bit. So COVID happened by race, and it went up a little bit. Then we see right here, that's COVID. Just before George Floyd, on the day of the George Floyd incident, 18% net support. And they saw a glorious high of 25% net support. Black Lives Matter was on cloud nine. It was the greatest time to be a member of the movement. But then they couldn't control Antifa and the far left, and the riots happened, and it started to collapse. Then when Jacob Blake was shot, check this out. This is the craziest thing out of all of this. It was on the decline due to the riots. It was at 18%, mind you, and just before Jacob Blake got shot, 11%. It had dropped 7 points. And then Jacob Blake got shot. And what do you think happened? Did it spike? Did it go up? No. It actually tanked. Whoa. Before Jacob Blake got shot, 11%. After, it stayed at 11% and has fallen now to 9%. How is it that there was no boost? In fact, after Jacob Blake got shot, it went down. I have a couple theories. As I mentioned earlier, sports, people putting Jacob Blake on their helmets. A lot of people who are just like, yo, I don't like this. I didn't care when you were putting up signs. It was fine. But now you're in my sports. Get out. So when they got pulled, they said, I don't like any of this. But I got another theory. I got another theory for you. You see, when George Floyd was killed, everybody was on board. Everybody. Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity were expressing their support. But then we found out, George Floyd wasn't a saint. The riots happened. People kind of got upset. Well, you'd think after watching another police shooting like at Jacob Blake, there should be a spike again. Yeah, but then we quickly learned, literally like a day later, that he was being arrested for a felony, assaulting a woman. He had assaulted a woman, and then he had gone back to her home, and she called 911. The police came to stop this man who was wanted on a felony warrant, and he fought with them. And he had a knife. He says he had a knife. I don't know if he grabbed it. At what point they yelled, grab the knife at him, according to a witness. And they shot him several times. You see, regular people saw that story. But the media didn't understand. And the Democrats didn't understand either. And they propped this man up. And they said, oh no, another police shooting. And the activists jumped on top of this. And then regular people saw the reports. This guy was an abuser, man. This guy was abusing a woman. And he came back and they said, you're supporting this? I'm out. I am out. Well, look, overall, they still enjoy net support, right? Black Lives Matter is at 9%. The funny thing is that erased Black Lives Matter's gain from earlier in the year. We go back to January and they were at over 10. At the beginning of the year, 10% net support. So guess what? I guess if you don't like Black Lives Matter, never did, I got good news for you. They are erasing all of their goodwill that they generated throughout the past year. With 10% net support in January, they are down now below. Black Lives Matter has less support today than the beginning of the year before anything happened. The riots have backfired. It is worse than they probably could have imagined if they just didn't riot. And this is why I say to all the right-wing individuals, this is why I say, heed my warning, Proud Boys. You go to Portland on the 26th. Don't be surprised when you see the same thing. Now, I know the media doesn't like the Proud Boys anyway, but it's bad enough already. You see how bad it went for them? I know the Proud Boys aren't going to riot. I'm not stupid. They're going to march around and do a free speech thing, right? But the left will make it a riot. The Antifa will show up. They will make it a riot. And you will see more negative polling and it'll hurt Trump. I just got to stress this, man. Think about how credible this is. When they started the year off, they had 10%. They spiked after George Floyd with 25%. All they had to do was nothing. No riots, no football, whatever, no basketball. But they couldn't help themselves. They were frothing. Oh, it's ours. We're going to take it. And then they ripped it to shreds. And they've set themselves back. Well, that's what happens when you don't pay attention to what people actually care about. That's what happens when you abuse the goodwill of the people who said, we're sorry that this man died. You spit in the face of all of these people by burning down buildings. And then to add insult to injury, they put Black Lives Matter up on billboards. They put it up on the banner at the Red Sox field. They put it up all over the TV. While we watched them burn down cities, you would honor them? Get off my TV screen. I'm not watching your stupid game. I don't have anything to do with this. And so now their support has fallen in the gutter. I'm curious about net opposition, mind you. I don't know. They don't have a net opposition. They just have net support. The trend line, I guess it's the same thing, though. But I'm curious about how much opposition they've gained. Something happened in the past few days where opposition jumped up another point. Support fell down a point. 2 points, actually, from 50 to 48. Well, you reap what you sow. The riots are yours, Democrats. You've earned it. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.